so far, so...
Why did that just get so loud?
Whoa.
What just happened in Hamilton's brain?
I don't know. My mic just turned on.
Happened.
I was wondering what was wrong.
That's really loud.
Hold on, let me turn it down for you.
On both ends. Okay.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Holy, you can still hear me? Y'all can still hear me?
What is happening to me? I think we're good now. Technical problems. What?
You sounded like a gargoyle.
I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. Dude, like I said, I've had energy's high today. Okay.
Episode 4.
What a hell of an intro.
Yeah. Yeah. Good one.
We're both in moods today, apparently.
Wow.
This rarely happens. Kayla and I are on the same wavelength.
Well, I've had 1 cup of coffee, and that was at about 10 o'clock.
Will you go chug a C4 so you can be on my level?
Absolutely not. I would throw up.
Oh, I don't know why my mic just turned on all of a sudden.
It's okay. We're good.
We made it.
All right. Episode 4. Welcome to our show. I'm back. I've been traveling a lot.
Yeah, we had Adam Meyer on our last show.
Yep.
Who love him.
What a guy.
He's a great guy.
What a guy.
He is.
Dad.
He's I'm glad we brought him because he just sounds good, one, but he's also like very easy to talk to.
Yeah.
So like conversation never stopped.
Right.
And he's been doing CrossFit just as long as I have.
Mm-hmm.
Which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So Adam, thank you. That was an awesome episode. Caitlin, how's life?
It's life. It's going. Slowing down a little bit, which is good. So now I'm back full time. I was traveling a lot for work.
You were traveling a lot for work.
Like the entire month of March, I was gone. I had shows in Atlanta, which is here, but I was still occupied. And then I went to Orlando the following week, and then I was here trying to play catch up and getting my life together. And then I went to Chicago for a week.
Damn.
And now we're here. So I don't travel for work until the end of July.
Thank goodness.
Thank you. Thank
Will you be here when Squish is born?
Mm-hmm. It's on my work calendar.
We talked about this yesterday. That's
Squish.
right.
It says Squish is due on my work calendar, on my personal phone, on my Google calendar, on my written calendar, on my
August 10th, people. Baby Squish.
I have like Squish, and then I have everyone's birthdays. So like every time my coworkers walk in, without fail, they'll always just walk in and say, "Hey, Caitlin," and will talk at me while looking at my calendar to see if I've added anything else to the calendar. So it looks like I'm crazy busy, but it's just, I mean, I kind of am, but it's primarily just making sure that my people are.
That's right.
We're good.
That's right. Caitlin, I will say that you are very thoughtful. Like Caitlin will text me stuff that I had no recollection or remembrance of someone or something. Okay. Like we were on the podcast and you remember, I didn't remember our year anniversary of functional versatility, and you were like, "Oh yeah, today's our 1 year."
Yeah.
And I was
so would that be
what?
like me being thoughtful or you being forgetful?
Well, both. That's why we work so well together. Thank goodness.
2 little puzzle pieces fitting right together. That's my love language, you know? I'm a thoughtful person.
Let me ask you this.
Talk to me.
What's your stance? This is nothing to do with fitness.
That's okay.
This is just all over social media. So I'm curious, what's your take on the Will Smith, Chris Rock, was it Oscar scenario?
Who cares?
First off, that is the best answer. That's the best answer.
Like, who cares?
That's
okay,
very true.
Here's how.
Humor me.
Here's how invested in the celebrity world that I am in. Okay, let's just go ahead and set the scene. I had just gotten. I don't watch the Oscars. I don't watch television. I watch Netflix and podcasts and YouTube things and the NCAA tournament recently because why not?
Sure.
So I found out about it from my German counterpart who I was just in Chicago with. And he messaged me because we're homies now. Franz, you're the man. He messaged me on WhatsApp and he's like, "Hi, Caitlin. I got to figure out what are your thoughts about the whole Will Smith smacking what's-his-face thing?"
What?
He's the one that told me. So I woke up at like 6 a.m. and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And I'm looking at it and I'm like, I'm not responding to this because I don't care. Yeah. So the same thing that I just said to you. But
fair enough.
Part of me thinks it was staged.
I don't know, man. If I was Chris Rock, I would have swung back so fast
You
and
say
punched
that,
his face.
Everyone can speculate and say what they think they're going to do, but you have no idea until you're in that moment.
Here's the thing, though.
You have no idea.
I have been. First off, I have been in a moment like that.
No,
before.
that's
Thank
not
you.
true. You have not been on the Oscars.
Not on that
dogging
stage.
on someone's wife.
Not on that
and
stage.
then get open-handed smacked.
All right, hold on a second. Here's first off, Chris Rock, class act for handling it the way he did. I'll say that was class act. He could have been a total douche about that if he wanted to. But I did see Jim Carrey gave the best response, I think, in my opinion.
Okay.
Brief, but he basically was like, Will Smith, I would have sued Will Smith for X amount of dollars because that insult will be on the internet forever. Which, I get that.
I don't even know what the insult was. That's how disconnected I am.
So it was, Will Smith's wife
hard.
has alopecia.
Right.
So she's losing her hair.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris Rock made a G.I. Jane joke.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. It's Chris Rock. He's
I don't
comedian.
understand
It's a
I
joke.
don't understand the connection though.
G.I. Jane, she shaved her head.
Oh, okay. So why is that I don't get why
He
that's
made a
bad.
joke like, "Oh, looking forward to G.I. Jane 2." It's a joke about her losing her hair, right?
Yeah.
Just a joke, poking fun at her. Well, Will Smith walked up, smacked Chris Rock in the face, came down and said, keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth. And Chris Rock was like, okay, I will. And like that, but the smack was like open
The smack
hand,
heard
five
round
finger,
the world.
like blatantly disrespectful in the face smack, right?
Okay.
Anyway, hold on one second. Jim Carrey said I would sue him because it'll be on the internet forever, which I agree with. He also was like, the shitty thing about all of it is you got all these people who work super hard in their careers to win an Oscar. That's like such a huge deal
Right.
in an actor and actress's
Right.
career. And that overshadowed all of it.
And Will Smith still got an Oscar.
Still got an Oscar and was like partying and doing all this shit like it didn't matter. And then he comes on and apologizes like a bitch on social media.
You're very vulgar today.
I know. I don't know. The
It's
energy's
the
high.
it's the C4,
Energy's
dude.
high.
Here's what I think. You have
Energy
that canker
is
sore,
up there.
and it's actually a tunnel, and it went straight to your heart and your head. That's what happened through the C4. So now you're just like wigging out, and you're not. What did the service say today? Humble. Let's bring
Yeah, you're right.
bring
I'm
it down
sorry.
a notch. You know.
It is true. But all I'm saying is I just think that it was very unnecessary, and I am a big Will Smith fan, but that definitely changed my opinion.
I don't know how to say this. Who cares?
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. Okay.
No, but I
fast
don't know.
forward. Sorry, we wasted 3 minutes of your life.
No,
talking
stop.
about
We're
this.
already here. So when listen, all those Oscars and Grammys and whatever the case may be, it's always going to be someone up there, the host, talking shit about everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You're a celebrity. You didn't choose to be on. Sometimes you did, I guess, but you didn't by you having a talent of being an actor or an artist or whatever the case may be. Just because you're good at something doesn't mean that you want to be on that platform of everybody having unlimited access to your life all the time. You attending the Oscars, you did that on by choice, which is fine. That doesn't mean that you gave permission for someone to talk shit about you or your loved ones, but that's now part of the territory.
But it's like but it's how you react to it though.
Right.
Like if he really was offended by it, he would have walked in and be like, "Hey, dude, that wasn't cool. Like, please don't say that stuff about my wife." And some people handle it differently, right? But then my beef also, and I mean, listen, I'm not perfect by any means, and I've been in situations like this. But he gets up and he talks about God and his purpose and stuff like that, and I'm like, dude, you just blatantly smacked a dude 5 minutes before you came up,
right?
You know what I mean? I'm kind of like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
Mixed messages. I will say this. I don't know what that relationship was like behind closed doors, but it can't be good because she openly cheats on him. You know what I mean?
We're not going down that rabbit hole.
I'm like, come on. Anyway, people, that was. I was curious.
I think it was staged. I think it was all staged, and also the whole Jim Carrey thing. I get it, but how many people's names have been spoken poorly of on the internet, and no one's suing anybody?
No, I think it probably happens more than we think.
Like the suing part?
Yeah.
Was it defamation of character or something?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just going to return back to my little bubble of not paying attention to celebrities.
Honestly, dude, if it hadn't been put on Instagram, I would have never known about it.
Yeah. See, again, that's what
it's all a joke.
I think it's all staged because I think.
I was just curious about your opinion because that literally, dude, I'm not even kidding. That was everywhere. Still is.
Yeah, and I just keep scrolling.
Everywhere. But I mean, there's so much love for Chris Rock. that he obviously has.
Well,
more
and
to
they
support in
cut.
the
Didn't they cut the audio for like 5 minutes
on the American version, but on the international streams they didn't. That's how it got. That's how it got put on the internet. Yeah, it's crazy, bro. Anyway,
I think it's staged.
fitness. Let's talk about fitness. Let's talk about the important stuff. Okay. So, the main thing we're going to be chatting about today is skill development.
Progressions.
Yes. So basically, we're going to answer the
personal fave of
question:
mine.
how do you get to do the sexy stuff if you can't do it now?
By doing the gritty stuff.
And what I mean by sexy stuff are like all the complex gymnastics that you see all these quarterfinal, regional, semifinal athletes doing. Rope climbs, ring muscle ups, bar muscle ups,
Pistols.
GHDs, pistols,
Handstand
chest to bar,
push-ups.
handstand, Dev is a handstand push-ups, handstand walking, like all of the fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get to do that?
Starting from the basics.
I'm going to switch my hat around because this is... Hold on 1 second. Stand by.
His brain power isn't able to be fully turned on. I'm gonna bet that you're gonna change that hat around at least one more time.
Nope.
Okay.
So, hopefully not. I've already wasted enough time on this podcast talking about Chris Rock and freaking Will Smith, dude.
It's not as long as
only
we
12
think.
minutes. Okay. Yeah, and apparently I'm just like acting like a moron today. So, how do you get to do the fun stuff? And I mean, this is, I think, a common goal of a common desire of like your more like your newbies, people who have been coming for a while but are still looking to take that next step.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about how we get our athletes prepped to do stuff like that, and kind of talk about what it takes to get there.
Right.
Not just physically, but mentally too.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I mean, it doesn't come like some of this stuff. Let's start by saying this: like some of this stuff does come naturally to people.
Right.
I knew people that for ring muscle ups, just like, is this how you do it? And like, and I'm like,
You just look
at
at him like, what? Mm-hmm.
Oh, I know. It's so annoying. It took me months, like months. Ryan Brack, shout out. If you ever listen to this, dude, he's the one who got me to be able to do one. So I started CrossFit and CrossFit Burial, but it took a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very complex thing to do. But some people just naturally either have like a previous foundation from a sport or just have that knack,
Natural.
that perception to be able to do it. But not for most. Right?
The vast majority don't have that.
Yeah. Because a lot of the majority of the people we program for are people that do this to stay fit, stay healthy,
Right.
Things like that.
It's cool to look at for a handful of people, but that's not necessarily their goal. They're like,
Right.
I'm cool with kipping pull-ups or chest to bar, but butterfly, like cool, but I don't have any desire to do that too. So
I think you can go two routes with this, and you tell me if you agree or disagree. I think one route is like the to say you can, right? The aesthetic route. Like, I can do this. Like, how cool is that? And then the other one is like people view it as an actual step in their fitness.
Right. It's a goal of theirs.
Well, but it's just showing their improvement.
Right.
Like you get there. So now it's like I'm tangibly fitter because I can do this movement now.
Right.
Which is what people get excited about. But I think, and some people probably mix the two, because it is like, I think you should brag on yourself and pat yourself on the back if you get to do like these movements are hard.
Right.
And especially for athletes that are wanting, because we have athletes that thankfully the Lord has blessed us and we're continuing to grow. And we have athletes that come on that want to compete at the next level. And that's like one thing that's not easy to develop, and it takes time to get to those. But there's movements they have to do in order to compete at that level.
Right.
So let's start with this. The thing that we do, let's talk about the mentality first, right? Because this is important, because these are hard movements.
Right.
And
complex movements.
And just like any other thing that we do in like the world of physically bettering yourself and being healthy, you have to have the mentality and the fortitude to be able to get there. You know what I mean? So making the step saying, okay, if I truly want to be able to do this, I need to work on it.
The concept of delayed gratification as well, like knowing it's going to could potentially take some time, and you have to work and chip away at it to get there.
Do you find that and to be like an issue in athletes?
For delayed gratification? Yes.
Like putting in the work to get there?
The concept of like the short term, they want to have it right away. Even if you're getting the taking the movement down to its most basic level, my favorite thing, one of my favorite things to do. Someone's not able to get their, let's say, chest to bar. No, let's just say kipping pull-ups. And I look at them, like, what can I do better? What am I doing wrong? I said, how many strict pull-ups can you do? And they don't want to hear that. They want to be able to, again, do the sexy stuff because they know the answer.
Right.
So that understanding that you have to take a step back and you have to do things that you currently can't do. You can't just skip a step. You can't just leap and get there.
Which we'll talk about that.
So first acknowledging what the problem is and then allowing that person or that athlete to agree and accept that they have to take a step back, which is actually taking a step forward if you think about it. And knowing that it's going to take some time for them to get there. Like, you're not going to get it today. 95% of the time it doesn't happen that day, right? Right. So that concept and the understanding of delayed gratification, like, you're not going to get the big picture right now. You're not going to be able to do all that right now.
Yeah, just expect that for most, this is going to take months.
It's a grind, yeah.
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 Some weeks for some, which, that's great if that's the case, but for most it's going to be months.
Right.
So I think the first step in this process is, like, ask for a starting point, which Caitlin just, kind of hit on that. Like, if you want to be able to do a ring muscle up, if you want to be able to do chest to bar, blah, 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 you need to ask where to start. Right. And then once you master the progression, that's when you take the next step. I think that's definitely a good starting place. And that can be for any movement. So, like, let's take one, for example, ring muscle up, the most popular unicorn of movements that people want to do. Which is a very, very complex, challenging movement. I know that these elite athletes make it look easy, but it's because they spent literally years developing the ability to be able to do this. So, like, I think, honestly, if you were to say, like, okay, I want to do ring muscle up. Okay, my first thing would be, like, what do your strict pull-ups look like? What are your, pull-ups? What do your strict pull-ups look like? And what does your ring dip look like? Because those are the two cornerstones of the movement, right?
What does your dip look like?
Yeah, exactly.
Rings would be later
well, it's like
on.
if they can. So again, and how many times do you see athletes kick up and get to the bottom of the dip position but can't press out?
Right.
So like there's So like you have to go down to a granular level of like, what does your push pull look like? And then from there, that's when you assess, and then you can kind of build a track to go from there. But that would be step one. 2, it would be accepting the fact that it is going to take a long time. Right. And just being at peace with that. 3 would be having a plan. So like, this is one thing that we implement for our affiliates is our AIF model, which is Advanced, Intermediate, and Foundations.
I just go ahead and say we changed that name over from AIP to AIF. So for a fact, we'll call it AIP. Just know it's the same thing.
Yeah, because it was still getting out of my system. Advanced, Intermediate, Progressing, and then we changed our terminology to be current with CrossFit, which
more
they use Foundations.
Yes, they use Foundations, but they are the same thing. Just so you know.
And so we find this model to be super effective for multiple reasons. And this is mainly what we're talking about today because, honestly, this is probably one of the better ideas you and I have ever come up with.
Yeah, the implementation of this from a macro and a micro scale.
Exactly.
The individual and for the affiliate is fantastic.
And we'll talk more about this in the next episode when we talk about programming, which that's going to be a long episode. That
might be a 2-parter. Like we'll record the whole thing.
Not a bad idea.
And then we'll just release, you know?
But we'll talk about programming, and that one's I'm very excited to talk about. So, but anyway, so this model, what it allows is it allows your advanced, your intermediate, and your foundations athletes to all be able to do the same skill part of that session, class, whatever, at the same time.
So as a recap, sorry to cut you off, the way that we have our week set up, one day of the week for the strength part of portion of the class, it is a skill focused development time frame. Right. So this is what we're talking about this time frame.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So the reason it works so well is because coaches can touch on different, like all athletes. It's structured where the actual physical structure of the design is the same. So like if advanced is doing an 8-minute EMOM, so is intermediate, so is progressing, and then that way the coach can run class effectively while still being able to coach all levels of athlete. Right. Usually advanced will be someone who has like a good foundational understanding of the movement and can do it and has done it in conditioning pieces. So like even when they're tired.
They have the capacity. We're building on the capacity that they currently have.
Yes. Well, it depends on what part of the season, which we'll talk about in a second. But yes. So then this is mainly going to be more for like the second half of the season.
Are we focusing on the first quarter? Like implementation of this?
No,
like how?
We'll talk about that.
Okay.
But right now
I
we're
want to
just
make sure we're on the
talking
same page.
Well, we're talking about kind of the macro aspect of AIPs, so or AIF. So we're talking about mainly the second half of the season, but we'll dive into that in a second. But it allows, so there's advanced athletes, like I was saying, to be able to, who have a good understanding of it, can do the movement. It allows them to get practice at the movement because they already can do it to at least, to standard. Then it's like, okay, what tweaks can we make to improve it? And let's continue to build the capacity. So we try and design it where it challenges either their technique under fatigue or it challenges their capacity to be able to do more reps unbroken.
And mentality.
Or for quality. Yeah. So we focus on like technical aspects, and it's different contingent on when it is in the season, which we'll talk about in a second. Intermediate is more so like someone who can do it, but doesn't have the capacity yet.
Right.
So someone who can do maybe like 3 or 4 chest to bar, but can't do 40 or 50 in a workout.
Right.
So it allows them to actually get more so technical practice, not so much capacity.
It's technical and familiarity.
Yeah.
Of
so
the
like getting
movement.
exposure.
Repeatability.
And being able to be coached during that time.
Right.
So they can improve their movement. So like it's different for advanced and intermediate because advanced has it. So like their goal of that session is different for intermediate, which intermediate is more so getting better at the movement.
Right.
And then progressing is going to be more of like, or foundation, excuse me.
See?
Is going to be more, I know, it's interchangeable. Is going to be more of like the literal building of foundation to get there.
Yeah, strength work.
So this is where Caitlin comes in, and you do a fantastic job of like progressing structure. So like when you're putting together progressive structures, like what goes through your head? What's your thought process? And when you're making these structures for foundations?
So you quite literally look at that as a foundational movement. So for me, for those of you who don't know, I come from a personal training background. Well, for about 10 years I did that. I guess technically I still do it, but in a coaching perspective. But you have to look at it as somebody who's brand new. It doesn't matter. To me, it doesn't matter. Somebody saying, oh, I've been doing CrossFit for 3 years, that doesn't mean anything to me because I haven't seen you move. And yes, you've had exposure to certain things, but it doesn't mean you're doing it correctly. So 100%. So like, again, kind of taking it back to the pull-up progression, right? Like if someone wants to do kipping, they think it's cool. I have to be able to not only break down the movement for that person, but the connection has to be there as well. So because I have a lot of experience with accessory stuff, for example, I just think, okay, what are the variations of pulling or pressing that one could partake in to keep it fun, interesting, new, but they can also see how it's going to help them later on down the road. So, I mean, I think of the newest person in my class or the greenest person in my class or in the gym that I'm aware of. And if I had them one-on-one, what would I have them do? That's the way that I kind of approach the breakdown. And again, it makes it easier for you and I, since all of them of the AIF/P are on the same time domain, because the flow is easy. And a foundational individual has a goal to work towards. Like their goal is to be able to do this skill development as an intermediate within the next 6 months.
Right, because we roll through these movements.
Correct.
Throughout the season. So
correct.
Like, we may touch on bar muscle ups, but in 4 or 5 weeks, you're touching on it again. So that way you can apply what you've learned.
And
during that time.
the different pulling, obviously, like we have the ring, ring muscle ups, bar muscle ups, and then the different chest to bar, whatever.
Yeah, pull-up variations.
Right. The foundational individual will have a lot of exposure to the foundations of pulling, despite it being a different gymnastics movement.
Right.
Which is going to help them quicker.
Yeah, exactly.
So they get more get more practice. But that's just kind of the way that I look at it. Just take the most underdeveloped person basically and apply it to them. Right. And then everybody can benefit from that.
And this will give you kind of an idea of when we talk about programming. This is going to kind of give you a preview into that episode. But we're actually doing a different type of structure this year for our skill development. So on the front end of the season, so our season's divided into 4 quarters, which we talked about before. Right. We're in the quarter 1 now for the 2023 season. This will be our 3rd week coming up. Yep. The the way we're doing it now is everyone is coming down to doing skill foundations is what we're calling it. So even our advanced athletes are going back to the basics and tweaking the small micro aspects of the movement to be able to benefit them in the long run.
Right.
They still touch on the movements and workouts.
Right.
But during the skill foundation section of the workout, that's when they really like. So, for example,
everyone's back to
let
the
me
basics.
pull this up. Oh, I can't pull it up. My phone's up there. But so, like, you're fine. So, actually, yes, pull it up on Tribe. Pull up last week's. I think it was Tuesday. I kind of want to give you guys an idea. So, during skill foundations, what we do is it's usually 3 movements right now. And we'll add a weighted movement, a loaded movement that's going to benefit that actual movement as a whole. Then we're going to do a movement-specific exercise, which is going to benefit that specific movement.
Right.
Then an unloaded aspect, unloaded exercise that's going to help with that movement as a whole.
So, for example, last week we had pistol squats for the skill foundation, and it was every 4 minutes for 12 minutes. It was 10 single leg box squats per leg, 10 feet together goblet squats at a moderate weight, and then 5 box step downs per leg at a moderate weight.
So you have the box squats, which is touching on the actual movement. That's a movement-specific exercise. You have the feet together goblet squats, which are working on more of the top portion of the quad, which is going to help since your leg's going to be isolated because you're only using one leg. So you're strengthening the quad itself, as well as touching on ankle mobility, because that does require a little more demand.
People forget that.
You're right.
You have to have ankle mobility for that.
So much, which I do not have. It's better. But and then the third one being the step down, that is the unloaded movement. Then all that benefits your pistol as a whole. Right. And dude, again, this goes back to, like, I use single unders as an example. There was that one episode when Sarah Sigmundsdottir and all them were doing an aerobic seminar, aerobic capacity seminar at Mayhem, and none of them could do single unders. But Henshaw was right. He was like athletes get so focused on the more complex movements, which is fine, but he goes that they neglect the foundation, the basics, the foundation movements. Foundational movements. So I took that really resonated with me. Yeah. Because I was like, dude, single unders are harder than double unders. Like now, because think about it. You do double unders for years and years and years and years. Your rhythm's different. Yeah. And I really try and take that approach. Right. And we haven't done this before, but this is the first season we're doing it, where we're really trying to have actual steps where people can see themselves get fitter and kind of bring the elite athletes back, or the RX athletes back to getting that exposure to what doing basic movements feel like.
Appreciation.
Yeah.
The basic movements.
And it benefits as a whole. So, like, for example, because I did that session on Tuesday.
Same.
The step downs, very challenging. I was like, what? Because I did all the pistols and quarterfinals, and, I'm like, oh, no problem, dude. Easy peasy. And then you break down to an accessory exercise. I'm like, wow, there's a hole in my pistol ability.
No one is athletic doing that.
Dude, if you talk about the service talking about having humility,
right?
That will bring you back down to earth real fast. But this is to be fully transparent. This is the first year we're trying this. So really in the front end of our season,
applying this in this quarter,
yeah. So like the skill foundation, which is what we call it. This is first time doing it, and this is what we're doing on the front end of our season. Correct. And we're doing this up until quarter 2. But it will be progressive. So what we'll do eventually, so quarter 1, we're going to be focusing mainly on just like the loaded movement, the unloaded movement, and the exercise specific drill. Right. Then in quarter 2, we're still going to have those aspects, but we're going to actually add the movement into the skill foundation. So, for example,
you'll still have accessory supporting movements.
Yeah.
Basically.
So, I'm saying you'll actually do the movement. Yeah. So, like you'll you would actually do pistols. Try some. Right. You know what I mean? So that way, it's like, okay, now that we've worked on building the foundation, the first 2 blocks within that first quarter, we're still going to continue to do that. Obviously, adding complexity, adding weight, and then allowing them to actually practice the movement. So that's kind of how the front end is going to look like for skills in the season, and what people are going to see and how they're, how they're actually, what's most important, how they're going to benefit from this is the elite athletes will be able to see more consistency in the quality of their movement.
Right.
During conditioning pieces when they're tired, which how often do you see athletes move super well at the beginning of the workout and then move like trash towards the end? And me included. Like sometimes when I get tired, I sacrifice quality to be able to get finish the workout, right? Which is not always the answer, unless you're in like a competition where, obviously the goal of that is to win.
It's not ideal, but it happens.
Yes. So what this will help is build consistency no matter where you are in your fatigue.
In that progress, yeah.
Yeah.
This is kind of a sidebar. Another reason from a coaching perspective why I like this model is because every affiliate you go to or every coach you experience are going to have different levels of expertise.
Right.
And knowledge. So for some of our coaches here or whatever affiliates we have, we are teaching these coaches and providing more tools to put in their toolbox for these new individuals. So it's not just a learning process or opportunity for the athlete. It is a learning opportunity for the coach as well to be able to be able to apply all of their focus across the board to different stages of an athlete's progression.
Right.
But learn if someone has a question or if they can't do a certain movement, how they can apply things that they've learned from a coaching perspective to this individual.
And on top of that, one thing that we always do is if we do whatever skill we practice that week, you will see it later in the week.
Right.
So you can be
Practice
like, coaches can
application.
refer to that, being like, hey, Tuesday we worked on this. Remember that when you do pistols in this workout or whatever. So that's kind of how it's going to look for quarter 1 and quarter 2. So for the first 4 training blocks, which this will make more sense once you do the next episode. And then the second half of the season, quarter 3 and 4, that's when we start doing the AIF. We actually start implementing it.
Right.
What it'll look like in quarter 3 will be more practice.
Right.
And then quarter 4 will be application, which there's a difference there. And I don't think people realize that sometimes. So in quarter 3, you have practice. So this is when you are the AIP model allows wherever you are to practice that variation that what we'll see in the open. Because ultimately, and I should have said this in the beginning, our season structure on the open.
Right. Friendly reminder.
So they see progression all the way to the end. Even people who don't do the open, they just get fitter.
Right.
So it's a win-win for everybody. Right. But they do have their peaking. They're meant to peak for the open. So what it'll do is it'll allow them to start practicing whatever scaled variations or whatever movements that are commonly seen in the open. So your chest to bar, your pull-ups, your ring muscle ups, your blah blah blah. And then, but they're not actually fully immersed in the movement yet. It's more so starting to introduce not full blown threshold practice, but some capacity work.
A little bit, yeah.
So they can start seeing
tapping into that capacity work.
Exactly. And we already kind of dip our toes in that in the second quarter.
Yeah.
So this is kind of the next step further.
Right.
We start pulling away some of the actual foundational progressions. We start pulling those away and then start actually doing the movement itself. Right. And we start seeing things click for people.
Right.
We typically that's when we can start actually coaching the movement as a whole. You've worked on your pulling, you've worked on your pressing, you've worked on your kipping, we've built the foundation in your midline. Now let's start seeing what your ring muscle up looks like. And then we start going from there. And then in quarter 4, that's when the application of all that practice comes to fruition.
It's we're live.
Exactly.
We're live.
And then we start putting them in open scenarios and in simulations. And each different one. So even foundations gets challenged.
Right.
Because if there's a sit-ups, we're going to work on our sit-up capacity so they can give their best performance.
Correct.
When the open rolls around.
I love this model.
It's a great
really
system.
Do.
It
I
works.
love this model.
And use it. It literally works. We're going to offer eventually, this is probably going to be closer to next year.
The idea is to.
Yes, to make this to provide educational resources for this.
Right.
If you're programming for an affiliate, listen. This works. I don't know how else to say it without sounding arrogant about it because it's not. I've done a lot of shit wrong with affiliate programming, and I beta tested this for a long time, And Caitlin really opened my eyes to making it even better when I brought her on. But there's a reason that, like, we don't lose people often because this shit works. And, like, I get fired. Like, the
we get excited. We get excited.
Stuff is
we
what
do.
I'm really passionate about because I truly feel like I have found a model that works
across the board
from all from all aspects. So, like, not only, and again, we'll dive into this more, which I'm going to literally give you this information for free. Well, it's true. I mean, I'm gonna tell you how to program successfully for your affiliate. But it gives them what they want and what they need. Constant balancing act, right? Which Caitlin and I deal with every time we sit down and do workouts. Like, how do we give them the stuff that they like while giving them the stuff they need, and really balancing those well together where it gives them a product that they enjoy doing.
And informing them that there is the difference. And this is
There's
what the
definitely a
difference
difference,
is.
right? Because if you give them too much what they want, then they're going to have gaps in their training. Too much what they need, they're going to be turned off.
They lose interest,
Exactly. So, especially now, this is, again, the affiliate. Yeah. This is the affiliate model. This is individual training is a little different. But
okay, sorry.
All that being said, it's an act of what they want and what they need. The other aspect of this is, like, you want retention in your gyms. Like, you want your business to be successful. So you have to have a product that people are invested in.
And they're bought into.
One thing that we do very well is I say this constantly. I know you guys have heard me say this in past episodes, like, tangibly seeing your improvement.
Right.
If I'm paying for a product and I expect value from that product, the value that you're going to get, part of the value that you're going to get off of this membership that you're paying every month is getting fitter.
Right.
And seeing that you're getting
progressing.
fitter.
Yeah.
Like, that's the big thing that we do. That's why we do. I am an advocate of periodized training in some ways. In some ways, I'm not.
Time and a place.
But we do testing. We do testing and retesting so people can see themselves get fitter. And every single year, people get fitter. Now, there have been periods, though, where they didn't. And that's on us.
Right.
And that's when we go back to the drawing board and saying, okay, what did we do wrong?
Right.
Let's fix it. And we have. And that's why we do feedback surveys from members saying, like, we want more of this, less of this, blah, blah, blah.
It's being approachable by your members as well. Like, knowing that if they have a concern, a question, a compliment that they want to come to you with, it's being open for feedback, whether it's positive or negative, because that way you know it's just reassuring that what you're doing is correct and you're on the right path. Or, okay, this is working for most people, but how can we tweak it to where it's applicable for everybody?
Right.
So you have to be, as a business owner or even a coach, you have to be open for feedback all across the board.
Dude, and you got to have a thick skin in the programming game because people like what they like and they don't
You're
like
not
what they don't like.
You're not going to satisfy everybody.
Yeah, and we swallowed that pill a long time ago. Like, we know we can't make everybody happy. Trust me, I tried. And I used to get really, really, really upset when people didn't like it. And now I'm at the point where I'm like, look, do your thing. Like, if you like something else, follow something else. It's okay. Like, I understand that people are really die-hard functional fertility people, and there's people who aren't, and that's okay.
Fine. Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. But going back to what I was saying, that's why, like, our programming is priced at what it's priced at because it adds value to your business.
Right. Because
people tangibly see themselves get fitter. Now, circling back to what we were saying about talking about kind of the skill, how we're changing things this year. Why are we changing it?
Because we had feedback.
So, like, for example, we do very, very well. And actually, this past year, I say we do very well. There's things that I should have done differently, which we changed from this past year. I didn't see as much strength retention as we normally do throughout the seasons.
Correct.
And it's because I made some tweaks last year. I took some risks in terms of structure, and they didn't work.
We were transparent about that as 100%.
Well. Yep. And we are and we do our programming, by the way. I do nothing but functional versatility affiliate programming. Caitlin does it when she can.
Yeah.
So, like,
broken friendly reminder.
And so, like, the whole thing about that is, like, I'm not the biggest Ben Bergeron fan, but I do agree with him when he says, like, how can you sell a product and not do it?
Yeah.
Very true. There's a truth to that, especially when you're really trying to build a business like we are.
Right.
So
you can't go into it with a do as I say, not as I do mentality.
Exactly.
You have to be able to do your product.
So we didn't see as much strength retention. So we changed some things, and we're changing things this year to help with that because we saw tons of strength gain on the front end, like PRs on PRs on PRs. And it was great.
Q3.
Yeah, through Q3, which is crazy. That's the strongest I've ever been in my entire life. She was crazy.
And
I was
continuing
like,
on.
Saying, it was nuts.
Continuing.
No. I'm not hyping myself up. I'm just saying like the structure really
Right.
worked this past year and worked for a lot of people. People did like crazy shit,
Mm-hmm.
which is awesome. But I didn't see them retain that through the open. So we had to. It didn't harm them, but I didn't feel like I had them at their max.
Right.
So we changed some things. Well, skill-wise, we saw a lot of strength progression last year. I didn't see as much skill progression as I'd wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And we also did the AIP model throughout the entire season last year.
We didn't have a split. Yes.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we changed that. So Caitlin and I did what we normally do. We have our annual meeting. We sat down. We're like, hey, here's what we fucked up. Here's what we did a good job. Let's fix what we fucked up, and let's keep doing what we're doing good. And how can we make what we're doing good better? Right?
Right.
So all of that being said, as like we progress through the season, and I know we're going to be doing some boring stuff, but in order to get to those complex, sexy movements,
You have to go through.
you got to do the foundational stuff. And I know
Mhm.
people say that, but like you got to do it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not fun, and it's not, it's not the cool stuff to put on Instagram.
I don't like when people are like, it's not fun. Quarter one's the best quarter.
I know Caitlin's a big advocate for
I love
for,
quarter
for
one.
basic strength and
I
conditioning
think-
and skill.
I
skill
think
development.
I'm one of like probably the only one here
Mhm.
that will say like I will stand on a mountaintop peak
Yeah.
and be like, I love quarter one.
And I don't like it either because I like doing the sexy stuff, but I also realize that I have to go back. I mean, for example, an exercise as simple as that box step down, I was
Mhm.
like, I can't do this. I had to scale it. I had to modify
We're like
it.
wobbling.
Well,
that extended leg is holding on for dear
Dude,
life to the
I had
box
to
on
modify
the way
it.
up.
And like I'm a quarter level
Elite athlete.
no, just a quarterfinal level athlete, and I like with a basic skill progression, I couldn't do it. What? But that just goes to show that there's a gap in my ability.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, that's why even if you're at the part where you can't even do a pull-up yet, like, you will reap the benefits in the end by following the step-by-step process as opposed to trying to skip a step.
Right.
And then, let's shift the conversation. We'll get a little spicy
Ooh.
here. For those of you whose ego gets in the way.
Come lift with me. Let
Listen.
me coach you.
Let me tell you something. I'm bad about this too. I have definitely been like, I'm good, dude. I can do it. Just get away from me. Listen, sometimes you have to like really. I would encourage you that if a coach comes up to you and says there's an issue with your movement, do not take that as like, screw you, dude. Like, I can do it.
Right.
Take that as like, okay, obviously the coach saw something that I could be doing better. Take a step back, say, okay, what do I need to do? Like, how do
Reflect for a second.
what modification? And so let's say like you can do bar muscle ups, but they look like absolute trash. And that's not impressive to me.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a coach comes up and goes, hey, instead of doing bar muscle ups, why don't you go down to intermediate or even go down to foundations today and work on that because it's
one
working on the
piece.
deficit of your movement, the hole in your movement. And having that humility will 1000% benefit you in the
It'll
end.
help you in the long run. Yeah.
Because how often do you see that? You know?
A lot.
Even here.
Yeah.
I'm not hating on anybody. I'm just
But
saying
no,
like
it's reality
there
though.
are people that shrug off what the coach tells them.
Mm-hmm.
And they will continue to move like shit
Mm-hmm.
unless they have that humility, take a step back and go, okay, there's obviously a gap that's not filled here.
Establishing poor mechanics is so hard to undo.
Yes.
It is
That is
so
the truest statement.
hard to undo. So
100%.
as a coach,
Habits are hard to break.
golly, as a coach, if you telling somebody that there's a piece of their movement that could be corrected, that's great. How can they fix that?
Yes. I even tell people too,
Like-
when I give a correction, I say, hey, it's going to feel wrong. It's going to feel weird.
Literally.
And they're like, well, this feels different. I'm like, yeah, you've never done it
Literally,
like that
I was
before.
just working with Brandy, shout out, love you, before we started recording this, and the movement we it's for her cleans, and we broke it down to cleans from the box. And she kept looking at me like, these feel miserable. These are awful. I don't want to do this anymore. I said, well, we have to take you back because we have to work out this hard, engraved habit that you've created, and we have to completely change it, which is so hard to do. And she's an adult. She's mid-30s. She's had coaches tell her, she's like, I know what I'm doing wrong, but that doesn't help me.
Yep.
So by forcing her to come back and having something to deliver and provide from a progressive aspect is so beneficial. And people and athletes will appreciate and respect you so much more if you're able to take a step back and help them along that process, not just point a finger and say wrong.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, I could go on about that.
Well, perfect example. So push-ups.
Yep.
Like, let me go off on a quick tangent, but it's relative to what we're saying.
Shocker.
Back
That's my
then,
life.
let's say back 20, 30, 40 years ago, when PE started being implemented in schools, right? People only had a limited amount of knowledge because of time, right? Mm-hmm. You start something new, you have a limited amount of information. There's going to be a shit ton of trial and error.
Right.
Perfect example. My parents, who are in their 60s, were taught to do push-ups with their arms 90 degrees from their body.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And they were taught to go all the way down and press all the way up. But their arms were 90 degrees from the ground and 90 degrees from their body. Right? Not functional. Right?
Screws your shoulders
If
up.
someone were to come at you and you were going to push them back, your first reaction would not be like this, right? There is you have to think from an instinctual perspective, right? Like that's what functional movement is. That's why it's functional.
Functional, yeah.
Right? So like, it's funny because I had that, especially when I owned my gym in St. Simon's, there were some, I coached a lot of older people.
Right.
And I had to have that conversation constantly. Like, look, it's not your fault. Like you were taught wrong.
Yeah.
And it's not their fault because they only had a limited amount of information. Like CrossFit is what? 20 something years old now, maybe? Right?
I don't.
Early 2000s, yeah.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be. Maybe earlier than that.
Maybe.
Regardless, CrossFit's only been this is this old comparison to the fitness history, right?
Right.
So like you're only working with so much. Being taught not to squat below parallel. They were taught knees forward over your toes. Do not squat below parallel.
That your knees can't pass your toes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
No. I'm saying old school.
Oh yeah.
They were taught knees over toes. Do not squat below parallel.
Do not pass. Yeah.
Squat below parallel. Now, why do you think all of these people in that generation have knee, back, shoulder problems?
Yeah.
Because these improper movement patterns. But they didn't know any better.
Right.
So now, when I go and tell someone, hey, you need to do push-ups with your arms closer to your body, and you need to go full range of motion, and then press your body away from the ground with your arm moving in this direction, they're like, they can't do a push-up.
Right. And then they get frustrated. They're like, I don't want to do something that I can't do.
Dude, the demand is obviously different because you haven't done it.
Right.
Your body is so adapted to that movement
to a specific
pattern.
movement pattern. Yep.
And of course it's going to feel wrong. And you might not be able to do it.
Yeah.
But listen,
it's new.
if you change, then you start implementing that new habit into the correct movement pattern, you'll be able to do push-ups forever.
Yep.
Without injury.
Yep.
Because your risk for injury significantly drops.
Yes.
When you start using it in the proper movement pattern. And they just didn't know any better.
Yeah. They're doing what they're told. They were just told the wrong thing, but they didn't know it was the wrong thing.
Exactly.
We had to learn.
Right. And it's kind of, and that's the thing is like, that's why I would encourage you to have humility and be open to what coaches have to tell you because, yes, it may have worked for you for this X amount of time, but there's a better way to do things.
Right. Don't you want to
listen to the certified individual?
You want to know what you can do better.
No coach, hopefully,
Right.
is over here trying to tell you something that's going to make you worse.
Right.
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 So especially, and again, this all comes full circle, like with these skill movements that you want to get to, like you are going to have to listen and do things that you may not want to do
Right.
in order to get to that last step.
Right.
Like you have to do step A, B, and C to get to D.
Right.
And same thing with, breaking these habits, like you said, and it's very hard.
It's kind of going back to the mentality of it. You got to swallow your pride.
And this is another thing. So let's talk about this also.
And another thing.
Let's talk about like the the adaptability of like people who are at a high athletic level. So for example, one of my old coaches, Brian Ginn, he said something that resonated with me for so long. He was like, listen, there's a difference in you being like, okay, you can do a movement to standard. Right. But an athlete at your caliber will be able to fake it.
Yeah.
If you have deficiencies and you are defective in some part of your movement pattern, really high level athletes can fake it.
Compensate.
But at the risk of injury.
Yeah.
Right? Overhead squats. Perfect example. He goes, Hamilton, if I were to tell you the regional event that we were prepping for at that time had 225-pound overhead squats, and I could do them, but they were ugly.
Yeah, my eyes got big.
And but he even said, he's like, look, you can do them because you can fake it.
Right.
You can fake it and go to standard, but it ain't.
They don't look good.
Exactly. And
right.
So like, really hear that and like resonate with that.
Right.
That just because you are a high level athlete and you can do it to standard does not mean that you're doing it well.
You are never too experienced to go back to the basics.
Because here's the difference.
You're never too good to do that.
Exactly. Here's the difference. You have an athlete who has a good overhead squat,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have an athlete like me who has a bad overhead squat.
Yeah.
Right? So it's better getting there. Not in quarterfinals, but you know, here we are. But athlete A who can move well,
Mm-hmm.
and then athlete B who cannot move well, but they can both move to standard. Athlete A will be able to do overhead squats for the rest of their life.
Right. Longevity.
Athlete B they're on a timeline
Right. Yeah.
before injury happens.
Yes.
Something will prevent them from not being able to do that in the future.
Something's gonna
or being
break.
able to do it in the
Yeah.
future.
Yeah.
So all that being said, like, yes, the sexy movements are fun, competing's fun, but like your health is the priority.
Right.
We tell this to our athletes all the time. I want you to be able to do this forever.
Right.
Like, yes, doing all the crazy, fun, sexy stuff is great, but not at the risk of your health.
Right.
So keep that in mind also. Like a byproduct of you going back to the basics and taking the time to really take the right steps to get to do these movements is that you stay healthy.
Yeah. It's kind of like a warm up.
Like the movements, like, listen, we wouldn't be doing these movements if they hurt you.
Right.
But they do hurt you if you do them incorrectly.
Correct.
That's the episode. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean,
but,
cut.
But it's true though. Like that's the thing that I don't think people understand is like, yes, doing chest to bars are cool and doing all this shit unbroken is cool, but if an athlete does it well and can do it well sustainably throughout the workout, what you're not seeing is the length of effort that it took to get to that point.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like Kyle Ruth, one of my old coaches, told me. He was like, because my first like 3 months with training Think Tank was mobility.
Yeah, I remember you saying
that.
that.
I almost fired Kyle. I was like, this is stupid. Like, I'm not like, I'm paying you all this money and I'm doing fucking stretches and shit.
And what he's saying, he probably literally said because it's Hamilton.
Yeah, that's true. But Kyle was like, dude, you got to trust me. You've got to trust me. And that is the best I've moved, best I've ever felt, strongest I've ever been in terms of my encompassing my entire fitness ability.
Right.
And it was because I did 3 or 4 months mobility. The beautiful thing about that is that if you can strengthen yourself in the positions, you can do the mobility. All it takes is little bits of maintenance to keep that.
Right.
But the second you start neglecting it, it becomes a problem.
I have an athlete, Braden, who did that. Braden came to me. I used to work with him at a gym. And he came to me. He's like, listen, I keep getting injured. My back is really, I just have an injury that won't go away. It's nagging. It doesn't matter to me how much time I take off. If I try to fight through it, I'm at my wit's end. I don't know what to do. Yeah. So I want to come to, which was the beauty of it was he came to me saying, I want to work on mobility. I want you to fix me with your like prehab protocol for as long as you think we need to.
Right.
Braden, I'm very proud of you for even saying that.
It's hard to do.
It is hard to do. But the fact that he came into it knowing that he had to essentially stop everything that he was doing in terms of load and really focus on fixing his issue and not just trying to mask it. Now he's going to be able to compete soon.
Well, that just shows his maturity.
Yes.
Which it's hard.
It is hard.
Look,
it's very hard.
It is hard. It is hard to have humility and be mature as an athlete, but you will benefit so much from taking those steps. You got to look at the big picture. Like, you wanting to do all this sexy stuff and push through injury and blah, blah, blah is a finite amount of time.
And if you're not willing to take a step back and work on the basics, then do you really want the movement?
Exactly.
Like, do you really want to get it?
I'm a big believer in if you really want to do it, you'll do it.
Right.
So obviously you need to double check your priorities if you're not willing to take that step.
Swallow your pride and shut up and just do it.
Man, oh man. Well, we're getting close to our time here, but we hope you got something out of that. No, we're not. I don't want you to take this from like a negative place. Like we literally care, which is why we do this. This is a passion of ours, something we really, really give a shit about, and something that we take very, very seriously, and we care deeply about our athletes and our affiliates. And you can see by how fired up we get that we do care. And this is a huge part of Caitlin and I's lives and always has been. So, like, know that we're saying this from a good place because we want you to get better. Like, we want you to improve. The last thing we want is for you to take steps back. We always want to be stepping forward.
Right.
So if you don't hear anything, hear that going back to the basics, having maturity as an athlete, to have humility will vastly improve your fitness ability throughout your fitness lifespan,
career,
and your wellness, right, and your health. So that'll wrap it up for this episode. Next episode, I agree. Let's do a 2-parter. We're gonna do a 2-parter on programming because Lord, can I talk
for reference or to preface rather. I think I've said this before, but 2 years ago, it was 2020, and I came to Hamilton before we started FV officially. And I was like, hey,
used to be the Broadwad.
And I was like, hey, I want just teach me your ways. Like, I want to learn. And we spent the entire summer. It was 1 to 2 days a week for
2
like
months.
2 hours
No, it was like 3
each
months.
session
Yeah.
of just learning. So just know that it's going to be a information overload. But luckily for a podcast, you can pause it and you can take notes and you can think and absorb, and whatever we're saying, it's just going to be a lot.
And this will eventually turn into like a course that you can purchase from us to learn how to program.
That's
This will
the
be
end goal.
It'll be more so on the affiliate side, because that's really what I care. Maybe that'll be the 2-parter. One will be about affiliates. One will be for individuals.
Yeah, we're kind of talking
We'll
through
see.
some stuff.
Follow us
We'll
on
see.
Instagram with Function Versatility so you can keep up with all the updates. We'll kind of give you an idea on when this episode will be released.
Calendars.
This episode will be released not tomorrow, not the 4th.
Which is the 4th of April.
But the following Monday.
So the
Something like that. I think something like that.
no, that's not right.
But that's where we keep our
second
updates
full week
on.
of April.
Follow the Instagram account. Reach out to us if you have questions. We've got a lot of stuff coming for you. Oh, I got some time. Big effing announcement. End of April. Resolve is live. Resolve is live. End of April. Caitlin's been traveling, so Caitlin's got to get kept in the loop with this. But yes, so Resolve will be live at the end of April. That's when the age group qualifiers are done. So it's either going to be the 2nd or 3rd week of May, which we'll have an official date soon of when that will go live, and that will be available for athletes
Resolve
to sign
will
up
go
for.
live this spring.
Yes. It will be for it'll have a competitive track, it'll have a RX track, and it will have an intermediate track, and it is good. Whew, it is good. I'm very excited about this. So that's coming. We've got apparel coming. I've got some samples coming in hopefully this week of what we've got, some stuff that will go live on our store, which will all this will come and be available in May.
Stay tuned to the Instagram page. We'll be able to send you guys updates.
Yes, Instagram. Don't forget, you can listen to this, the podcast on YouTube and Spotify. And make sure you subscribe to us there as well as on Instagram. And yeah, sorry for I was hyped today. The juice is loose, man.
Don't say that.
I'm excited.
On that note,
it's great.
You all have a wonderful week.
Wonderful week.
Day, month.
Humble yourselves. Be mature.
Go be great today. I say that to the people in the morning, 6:30. God bless you guys. I'm like, you're going to do something great today. And they're like, you know what? I'm probably not. I said, we're going to act like you didn't say that.
Caitlin is the hypest of hype women.
I don't need no C4.
I don't need to see. Yeah, shit. All right. We'll see you guys on episode 5 next month.
Soon.
Whatever.
Peace.
All right, bye.